Today we're inside a 2015 Mercedes-Benz S-Class taking a look at the all-new Mercedes COMAND system in this generation of the S-Class. This is very similar to what you see in other Mercedes models, but there are some key differences because of the size of this large screen and the fact that we get this full LCD instrument cluster that you see next to it. Like the COMAND system in other Mercedes vehicles, it is controlled via this combination rotary joystick and touchpad. So right here we have this rotary joystick knob right over here. It rotates around, toggles side to side and up and down. And then this surface right here is a touchpad with finger writing recognition. We get a back button on this touchpad as well as right back here in a physical button. We have an on-off switch, a volume knob, you press down to mute, favorites button, and this brings up a contextual menu. Like other luxury navigation systems, this does support finger writing recognition, and you write it right here on this small trackpad. There are also some additional direct access buttons right across the top. So we get our car menu right there where you can adjust vehicle settings, telephone, media, radio, navigation, and seat settings. This is what you would use to take a shortcut to massage, adjusting your lumbar support, etc. We're starting off our look at the system right here on the main screen, and we're on the media interface, and we have an iPad plugged into this. This system does offer two USB ports in the center console, both capable of charging high-draw USB devices like iPads. We also have complete voice command of our music library, so if I just hit the voice command button on the steering wheel, search for music.
Please select a line number or say a music search category.
Search for artist.
Please say an artist's name.
Toby Keith.
Please select a line number.
1.
Number 1. Accepted.
You'll notice that as I progressed through that voice menu, there were no beeps. It is a very natural voice command system, and unlike some of the others out there, it's more conversational because there's no beep between when the system is done speaking and you should speak. As soon as she's done speaking, you can start speaking the command into the system. We also have album art displayed here on the left-hand side of the screen. You'll notice that we have the time right up here, the status of the built-in cellular modem, as well as the climate control information on the bottom. The system is split into 3 different zones. Right here we're in the primary zone, so if we click down on the selection wheel, you'll get your current track list. If I hit the back button and then toggle down, you'll notice we get some additional contextual buttons. We can actually change our options on this device. We can pause, search media device if you want to browse through your device manually by playlists, artists, albums, genres, etc. That's how you would do it. Changing devices right there. Changing the sound settings on the vehicle are done in that same way. We have our equalizer, surround system, speaker source, etc. Because we are in the S-Class with the top-end audio system, we do have a variety of options you may not see in other vehicles. So those are the options on the bottom. We can also toggle to the top, and here's where we have direct access to navigation, radio, media, telephone, and vehicle settings. Those are also direct access buttons down there above that remote control. If we click down on the media tab, you'll notice that we are taken over to our media interface where we can scroll through various input methods. We have disk, memory card, media register, which is a built-in hard drive in this system, media interface 1 and 2. You'll notice in this media list we have an info on media section, and that's because we do have an onboard owner's manual in this system, so you can actually browse through various sections and learn how to interact with your command system right here in the vehicle. The media interface and its ability to voice command specific albums, tracks, genres, etc. is relatively unique in this segment. There aren't that many luxury players that do that yet, although it is becoming a little bit more common. Scrolling on over to the radio interface, either via the direct access buttons or that menu on top, we have access to our Sirius XM stations right there. We can also change our source. If we click on that radio option again, we can choose between our internet radio stations that are connected right here. It's nice that they're here rather than a separate app menu. Again, we have info, so you can get that instruction manual, radio presets, HD radio FM, AM, and of course back to the satellite radio as well. Moving over to the navigation interface, you can see that we have this large high-resolution screen that is used for the entire map. We also have topographical information displayed on this particular map, as well as satellite imagery for those far-out views. So in this particular view, you can see we have topographical information displayed right there, and if we zoom out to this kind of display, we have satellite views of that data. We also have traffic delivered by the XM Satellite Data Service Network, and if you zoom in, you'll notice that it is a little bit less detailed than BMW's current version of iDrive, but it is very, very similar. Unlike Audi's MMI, all of this information is stored on the built-in computer. However, there is an online map if you would like satellite imagery from those Google Maps sources displayed very much like the Audi MMI system. Very much like the other interfaces in COMAND, you can toggle the controller up or down to do various different things. So if I could toggle the control up, the menu pops up. I can change my various interfaces right there, change the radio, the media, the telephone interface, etc. If I toggle down, I can change the destination, position on the map, get traffic information, or change system options. System options is where you would find things like north up or heading up views for the map, or the 3D map view that we're seeing right here. You can also change the map content or personal POIs. If we scroll up to the Navi interface right there, this will bring back another menu, very similar to the other ones that we saw earlier. And here you can choose the online display, compass, drive information, etc. The drive information app is very similar to what we see in the rear seat view on those rear entertainment screens. We have a compass over here, and then this screen scrolls through various different infotainment views. We have a map that's zoomed in, zoomed out. We can also get weather displaying on that screen as well. Now if we go back up to that Navi interface right up there, we can also get our online map display. This is very similar to Audi's MMI. You can see now the system is downloading that map information from Google's online database, and so this data is going to be as current as possible because it is maintained, of course, by Google, and it's the same one that you'd be downloading off of if you're using Google Earth on your computer. This is a little bit different, of course, than Audi's MMI system, where the satellite imagery data is a little bit better integrated into the map display that we're seeing right here. Entering a destination is very easy. We simply toggle down. We see destination right down there. Click that. You can enter an address. We can choose previous destinations, contacts, points of interest using a map, etc. Using geo coordinates, which is kind of unique, or from the Mercedes-Benz apps that are integrated in this vehicle as well. Mercedes-Benz apps, of course, allows you to find things via Yelp, points of interest download from your computer. You can also get hotel searches, movie theater listings, etc. And all these services integrate right there into that mapping interface for your destination. The keyword search is quite interesting in this particular system because it allows us to search for a wider variety of different points of interest. So I'm going to go ahead and enter an address or a place in here. We'll go ahead and enter Tortilla Flats, or Tortilla, which is one of my favorite restaurants. We can see what here is here in the addresses. So you can see we have those addresses that popped up right there. We can go back and choose an online search if we'd rather do that instead. This will search a variety of different online databases for an address or a business or point of interest, etc. You can see that Tortilla Flats is right up here. It's one of my favorite restaurants. We can go ahead and click down on that. We can get details, we can navigate to it, we can call it, etc. So it gives us a phone number right there, an address. We also have the information on number of stars right there, powered by Google, and we can do a Google Street View so we can try and see exactly what that restaurant looks like. There we go, and this particular Google Street View actually gives you an idea of what the restaurant looks like on the insides. This is actually the inside of Tortilla Flats, which is one of my favorite restaurants. If we want to navigate there, we just click the navigate button and we go ahead and click start, and that will take us right over there. Earlier I mentioned the contextual menu button on the touch controller. If I click that, we get a little pop-up display with our current media source information there, and we can either toggle the control knob side to side or swipe side to side on the touchpad to change tracks or change channels. That's because there is no dedicated track forward or backward button in this system. You do need to use this in order to change that track forward or backward. Over on the Bluetooth phone interface, it is your fairly typical Bluetooth phone interface, although we can use the finger writing recognition system in order to enter a phone number in this system, right like you're seeing here. Toggling down, you can also see we have call lists, which allows you to see who you've called, who's called you. We have text messaging support, the ability to connect a device right there in the system, and of course pertinent options. Now if we click up there, you'll notice this is telephone / that little globe icon. That's because if we click on there, this is also where you will find certain online services like the, again, information on your phone interface. We have Sirius weather delivered right here in this particular system, so we can see what the weather's like. You can change your destination as well there. We also have the internet option, which is where you will find the Mercedes connected apps. We have an address book, phone as well there again. If we'll go back to internet for just a moment, this is where you will find things like access to the Mercedes mobile website right here on the screen. You can enter any old destination right there in that www field right there. We have internet favorites, we have internet radio, and again those Mercedes apps. Clicking over on the Mercedes apps interface gives you basically what we saw earlier. So we have Mercedes-Benz radio, tune-in internet radio, online maps, weather, local search, all that sort of stuff right there built into the system. This is notably snappier than the last Mercedes COMAND system I tested. However, it is still a little bit laggy compared to some of the other entries in this segment. If we click over to the internet radio tab, you'll notice that we do have access again to those very same sort of internet radio stations that we saw in the other displays. It's a little bit more condensed. You'll notice we now have the Mercedes-Benz radio loaded in the system. We have some small album art there. We have some limited commands available right here. We can change the streaming source. We can also alter sound settings, and we can play and pause as well. Very much like the data services provided by other manufacturers in the luxury segment, this system does have a built-in cell modem, and you do have to have a cellular service plan on the modem in order for this system to continue functioning. Over on the driver's side, we have a nearly identical LCD, and this is providing us with the gauge readouts as well as some auxiliary infotainment functions. In addition to the speedometer and tachometer, we also get trip information. That's your typical trip computer. We get a navigational readout, which would show you the next turn directions. It doesn't show you a scrolling map like some of the other systems out there do, however. We also have the radio option. On our particular vehicle, we have the internet radio active at the moment, but we can also change our source to satellite radio, and then you can change the channels right here in this same interface. If we choose the media interface, this is where you'll see the current track information. This is also where you can change tracks. Now, you can't change playlists with this particular interface, but you can change the tracks. That really is the only way to change the tracks from the steering wheel, because we don't have dedicated track forward or backward buttons in this system. The telephone interface is fairly self-explanatory, but if we go down to assistance graphic, this is where you can see things like your lane departure warning and mitigation system. So you can see we can turn that on and off there. If we have the radar cruise control enabled, it would give us the distance right there, and you can adjust the following distance as well as set your speed. And you can see a graphic to tell you how closely you're following the car in front of you. This display is also where you will see things like this night vision readout if your vehicle is so equipped. Our particular vehicle has this option, and it also has image pattern recognition, which will detect pedestrians and certain types of animals and display a warning symbol around them on this camera display. Last but not least, this vehicle also has the optional 360 camera, so you can enable that and disable that via a button right there on the left of the driver. And we can use the command display to change our view. So we have a 360 view, a 180 view. You can also change which camera you're seeing right there via this system. We do have a wide variety of different layouts. Overall, this generation of the Mercedes COMAND infotainment system is definitely a notch over the previous generation systems. I wish this LCD instrument cluster was a little bit more configurable, more like Cadillac's Q, where you can change the layout of the display, change it between certain preset layouts and gauge looks, etc. It doesn't offer personalization necessarily, but it does allow you to select between different layouts. And this is basically the only layout you get that you saw in the system. It's either this one or the one where the night vision camera is active on it. Over to the right on the primary infotainment display, I don't find this software to be quite as intuitive as BMW's iDrive system, although I think it is a little bit more intuitive than Audi's MMI system. Volvo's new Sensus Connect system, which we're seeing in their brand new XC90, which would compete with certain Mercedes models, obviously not the S-Class model, also seems to be a little bit more intuitive than this particular system. This is definitely one notch above what you find in the Lexus LS for sure. Lexus now uses a very interesting input method right in the center console. I don't think it is nearly as intuitive as the knob arrangement that the Germans are using. The system that we find in the current generation Jaguar XJ needs a little bit more time in the oven. You can tell that Jaguar has not been at their infotainment system nearly as long as Mercedes has been. It doesn't have the same level of polish we see in this system, and it is a little bit laggy. Speaking of lag, that is one of the areas where this system does lag behind MMI and BMW's iDrive in this internet connected option right here. When we take a look at the mobile web browser, the mobile apps, and the internet radio apps, the system definitely takes an awful lot longer to load those apps than in the competitive systems. Thanks for taking the time to check out this video. Again, I'm Alex Dykes, and this has been the Mercedes COMAND system in a 2015 Mercedes-Benz S550. If you want to know more about the S-Class or the S550 specifically, you can find that video on my channel as well. I'll see you next week.